Our next Kickstarter is going to be Star Realms: Rise of Empire, and we are doing this new thing with our Kickstarters. We're basically getting the product done and ready to go to the printer before we go to the Kickstarter itself. So basically, it's going to be a much faster window from end of Kickstarter to fulfillment to backers than we've had in our previous campaigns. Star Realms: Rise of Empire is awesome. It is my favorite Star Realms thing that we have ever done by a lot. It is so cool. So this is a legacy Star Realms experience. When the Rise of Empire is set up as a 2-player legacy experience, so one player will be playing the Star Empire, and one player is playing the Trade Federation. This is set in the Star Realms universe before the blob invasion. So this is before the blobs show up, before the machine cult show up, and basically before the Star Empire rebels from the Trade Federation. So this is back in the Star Realms timeline when all of human space is controlled by the Trade Federation. So basically Earth and the inner planets, systems near Earth, are incredibly advanced and developed, and humans are colonizing, continuously colonizing new star systems, terraforming, mining, setting up operations in more and more systems across the world, across the galaxy. And this this requires a lot of colonists and colonist miners, terraformers, etc. And there's kind of a gold rush mentality where basically the Trade Federation is telling people, "Hey, go make your fortunes on the frontier. You can get your own land, strike it rich, etc." And but the reality of colonization is and setting up these new worlds is much harsher. So basically, life on the frontier is very tough. And as these worlds get more and more established, they are taxed. They are allowed to set up basically whatever government they want locally, as long as they pay their taxes and tributes to the Trade Federation. As long as the Trade Federation can continue to do business and set up, basically exploit the resources locally and tax the people. So there have been a bunch of rebellions previous to this point in the timeline, but the Trade Federation has basically stomped them out each time, brought in a bunch of forces and got the locals in line. So the Star Empire, their world is, of course, an empire, imperial system set up where the emperor is in charge, and he's wanted to throw off the Trade Federation for a while, but he's seen what's happened with other systems when they've tried to throw off the yoke of the Trade Federation control. So what he did is basically he was a model colony, paying good industry, paying their taxes, all doing everything that the Trade Federation wanted them to do. But in secret, he was building a giant navy, basically a huge armada. This game starts when the Star Empire has decided it's built up enough force in secret. It's getting hard to keep it a secret, and it's time for them to kick the Trade Federation out of their system. So that's where this game begins. And basically, the Star Empire is trying to convince neighboring systems that they should also rebel. They're rebelling from the Star Empire, from the trade. The Star Empire is rebelling from the Trade Federation. They're declaring their independence, and they want their neighbors to all do this. To basically join the cause. Declare independence, kick the Trade Federation out, and of course, the Trade Federation wants to keep all the various systems loyal to them, continuing to pay taxes, and they want to put this rebellion down. So those are the two players at the beginning of this series. And basically, the box set will take you through a series of 12 games. And in these games, you're going to be having different scenarios that you're playing. And at the end of each scenario, you'll be getting new content and new stuff, and the storyline will advance. And depending on how things have been going in the recent battles and in the campaign as a whole, the various players are going to get rewards. And we've got some really cool balancing systems in the Rise of Empire, which will, if one player is behind in the series, we give them some crutches to help them sort of catch up. Basically, their side gets a little more desperate and is working harder to try and win battles. So that is the sort of overarching idea of the game. One of the incredibly cool things that we get to do with Rise of Empire, which is something I never thought we'd be able to do with Star Realms, is we can introduce different factions. So Star Realms has its 4 factions. It's got the Star Empire, the Trade Federation, the Blob, and the Machine Cult. And basically, that's it for the game. We've added lots of cards for those factions, and we have the mercenaries, some colorless cards. But basically, those 4 factions are what you get with Star Realms. With this, because it's a prequel to Star Realms, it's happening before the Blob invasion, we get to sort of explore the galaxy at that point in the Star Realms history. And you have the market deck in this has none of those factions, none of the original factions, the 4 factions from Star Realms. This has 3 factions that are you've never seen before. These are the neighbors of the Star Empire, which both players are trying to recruit to their side. So when you're buying a ship or base during the game, it represents that ship captain or that base commander deciding that for the time being they're going to be on your side in this war. So as as you acquire cards from the market, this sort of represents gaining control of those various factions during the course of the game. I'll show you some cards from these. Show some cards from these new factions. So, here we go. Sorry, technical difficulties. Okay, so scavengers. So basically, the scavengers are further away from Earth and the center of the Trade Federation than the other factions. The scavengers consist of like wildcat colonies, pirates, smugglers, traders, basically people on the outskirts of human space, and they're really good at surviving with minimal resources. The scavengers, like all the factions in this set, have a win acquired mechanic. So basically, any of the cards that you're buying from any of these 3 factions, when you acquire them, they're going to do something. The power level of the cards themselves, once they're in your deck, is a little bit lower than you're used to from regular Star Realms. But those win acquired abilities can do some really cool things for you. So, for example, when you acquire the Digger, you have the option of scrapping a card from your hand. So you can just get a card out of your deck. So it's a deck thinning mechanic that faction is good at. And as you can see, the art in this set is super cool. The next faction is the Kingdom. So the Kingdom is a monarchy in neighboring systems to the Star Empire, and they are fairly militaristic. So basically, with these guys, when you acquire a Kingdom card, it's going to give you combat right away. So that can be a really big deal later in the game, especially when your opponent has some bases or outposts out. The ability to get combat right away is big. And you'll notice that with the cards that these low cost cards have relatively small bonus abilities. So here you can see a Sentry from the Kingdom. The more expensive cards will have more and more powerful when acquired abilities. So those can be a big deal later in the game. Here we have the Keep from the Kingdom, and you'll notice this one's giving a much bigger combat bonus when you acquire it. Now, this is a 6 cost, 5 defense outpost. So as far as the power level compared to, let's say, a Star Empire or a Trade Federation card, power level is going to be a little bit lower once it's in your deck. But you're getting that when acquired ability. So if you the stuff in here, you can totally mix in with your regular Star Realm stuff when you're done playing it in the Legacy campaign format. And one of the cool things about it is you're getting these bonus when acquired abilities, but it's balanced out because the card itself is a little bit weak for its cost. So that combination of slightly weaker for its cost, but giving you something really cool when you buy it, makes them balanced with the other cards in the game. Here we see another Kingdom ship, the Archer, and the Knight. And again, those more expensive cards, you're getting heavier hitting, more powerful abilities. And here we have the Castle. This is Consortium base. So the Consortium is made up of worlds that are between the Star Empire and the Trade Federation. So these are more advanced, more economically developed worlds. So the Consortium is good at acquiring cards, and when you acquire Consortium cards, you're able to draw cards, draw and discard, or draw cards depending on the cost of the Consortium ship. So this is a big, the big 8 cost Consortium base. This one's given you 3 trade every turn and the ability to buy things directly on top of your deck. And of course, when you buy it, you're drawing cards, and you get to draw a couple cards and discard a card. So late in the game, when you're buying a big card like this, your deck's probably going to be pretty solid. So the ability to get a couple cards immediately when you draw it, when you purchase it, that's a pretty big deal. Now the less expensive Consortium cards, so like this 1 cost trader here, it's going to help you build up your trade a little bit because you play it for 2 trade, and when you buy it, you get to draw and discard. That can be really cool early in the game because you can potentially control when you're shuffling. So if you buy some stuff, then buy the trader. When your deck's empty, you're going to get that draw and discard, and that's going to cause you to reshuffle your deck and get all that goodness you've been buying in while you've got some you've got your Scouts and Vipers still in your starting hand. Here we're seeing another Scavenger ship, the Hunter. I just love the artwork on these sets. We actually had a different artist doing the work on We had 3 different artists doing work on this, with an artist handling, you're basically an artist personally handling each faction, which does it. So we have a question here. Catch-up mechanics for someone that keeps losing. Absolutely, we do. That's something I mentioned a little bit earlier in the stream. So basically, there is. I'm not going to get into the mechanic because I don't want to give away too many spoilers on the legacy game. But as if a player starts getting a big lead in the number of games won in your legacy series, the other player starts getting advantages, and those advantages build up over time. So basically, they just keep getting larger and larger as a player gets, if a player stays behind. So basically, there's a really nice catch-up mechanic. And you have objectives that you're trying to achieve, and basically being first to some objectives will give you some extra sort of points in the overall scheme of the legacy campaign. But as I said, if a player's behind, they're going to get some extra bonuses in games to help them catch up in future games. So it's has a really nice play feel as you're going through, because it's like you get really excited when you get like you get a win, and you achieve some goal that you're trying to do in the campaign, but then your opponent might start getting some cool benefits. So both players have something to look forward to for the next game in the series every time. Here we're seeing here's the Reaper, another scavenger ship, and then my last card spoiler here. We've got the Prince, a 8-cost kingdom ship. So as you can see, the artwork is really cool. These factions do really neat things. These win acquired abilities are so fun to play with, because you're thinking about building your deck, of course, as you do normally in Star Realms, but you're also thinking about what kind of advantages can I get right away from these.